Did you hear about the election in Mexico last week?
No, I am a busy emerging markets portfolio manager. I was too busy talking to angry clients. Can you tell me what happened?
Sure. In the Mexican election on July 1st, leftist candidate Andrés Manuel Lopez Obrador won a decisive victory.
Can you tell me more about Andrés Manuel Lopez Obrador?
Sure. Andrés Manuel Lopez Obrador is a former mayor of Mexico City known for his populist rhetoric. He lost the presidential election in 2006 and 2012.
Why did he win this year?
He won because the current president, Enrique Peña Nieto, and his party, the PRI, are so crooked they make Brazilian politicians look like honest civil servants by comparison.
The PRI is corrupt?
Yes. They are as rotten as a raccoon carcass after a week in the desert sun.
The Mexican voters are fed up with corruption and want AMLO to fix it?
Yes.
How will he do that?
He doesn't say.
What else does Andrés Manuel Lopez Obrador promise to do?
He has promised to build state-owned oil refineries, give poor elderly people minimum pensions, expand infrastructure spending, increase domestic agricultural output, and reduce the price of gasoline.
Will any of these things cost money?
They will all cost money.
Has Andrés Manuel Lopez Obrador said he will pay for these things?
He says reduced corruption will pay for these things.
I see. Has that ever happened in the history of global civilization?
No, it has not. But he has promised to maintain the government's current fiscal balance.
Will Andrés Manuel Lopez Obrador have the power in Congress to pass the laws that he wants?
Yes. Mexico's other two major political parties ran candidates that have all the charisma and new ideas of a sack of flour. And their leadership whines, fights, and bickers among themselves like siblings that have been denied dessert by their parents.
It sounds like they are a bunch of power-hungry fools.
They are indeed a bunch of power-hungry fools. Because of their corruption, greed, intransigence, and disunity, Andrés Manuel Lopez Obrador's coalition won 62% of the seats on the lower house and 55% of seats in the Senate in last week's election.
AMLO will have a lot of power?
Yes.
I own a ton of Mexican bonds. A leftist populist with total control frightens me.
The credit spread of Mexican bonds relative to that of other investment-grade bonds has not shown much of an underperformance since last year.
I am also long a ton of Mexican pesos. Did people sell the Mexican peso before the election?
The Mexican peso underperformed other emerging market currencies since April, but had outperformed for several months before that. Over the past year, the total return on Mexican pesos is similar to that of other emerging markets currencies.
Credit spreads have not widened?
No.
And the Mexican peso has not underperformed?
No.
So the market is not afraid of Andrés Manuel Lopez Obrador?
As of today, that is correct.
Does he have a history of changing his mind on things?
Yes, in fact that is emblematic of his entire political history.
I see. What about the Central Bank of Mexico?
He says he maintain their independence.
Has a leftist populist in an emerging market country ever gone back on that promise?
Yes.
I see. Is there anything else he might do that would impact the value of Mexican bonds or Mexican pesos?
At some point, AMLO will talk to President Donald Trump.
What will AMLO talk about with President Donald Trump?
AMLO and President Donald Trump will talk about the North American Free Trade Agreement.
Is the North American Free Trade Agreement important to Mexico?
Yes, the investment and production connected to exports to the United States that rely on the North American Free Trade Agreement comprise a ton of the Mexican economy. It's like saying chicken is important to Chick-fil-A.
I see. I read in the New York Times that President Donald Trump thinks the North American Free Trade Agreement is bad.
Yes, he does.
That sounds bad for Mexico.
It would be, if President Donald Trump withdraws from the treaty.
Will Andrés Manuel Lopez Obrador allow that happen?
Your guess is as good as mine. Both men have the ideological reliability of a early 80s Chevy Nova.
What will happen to my Mexican bonds and Mexican pesos if President Donald Trump withdraws from NAFTA?
If President Donald Trump withdraws from NAFTA, foreigners and locals alike will run for the exit door like they are being chased by a pack of rabid hyenas flanked by killer bees.
I see. It seems like there is a lot of uncertainty, but other investors are not afraid.
You're pretty smart. I can see how you got this far in the investment industry.
Thank you. I ask the right questions.